Picking up free items so you can resell them for money has become a very profitable side business to get into, especially with the way things have been going lately. But it's not all that it's cracked up to be, and I should know this because it's something I enjoy doing. However, there are some huge drawbacks. This sort of hobby is not for the faint of heart when it comes to hard work, but the toughest part is just trying to figure out where to start. Now, if you do it right, you could get a huge payday, but if you get it wrong, well, let me tell you how bad it could be. In today's video, we take a look at this Mantis tiller or cultivator depending upon who's describing it, and the problem is that it won't start, and on top of all that, it's leaking fuel at an alarming rate, meaning it's not safe to use. Now, I've already fixed this tiller, and if you want to see that video, there should be a link to it at the top of the screen or at the end of the video. And I'm just going to use the video as a background while I talk about the problems with picking up free items and flipping them for a quick profit. Of course, the idea is to get the item, fix it, and then sell it, and the faster you can do it, the more your time is worth. Now, most times it never happens this way, and in reality, it might take you more than a day to fix it. However, it does happen once in a while. So the recipe for this kind of side job is very simple, but at each level, there could be problems, and some are quite troublesome. The first issue is just finding the items to pick up, and the easiest way, at least for me, is to search online sites where people post items they want to give away. Now for me, I have two favorite apps I like to use, and with those, I'll end up getting on average 1 to 3 items a week, but it could be much higher in certain times of the year. This particular tiller was found by using one of those two sites, and it turned out to be about 5 miles from my house. Now the distance is important because the risk of taking a long journey using a lot of gasoline and time only to find out it's already been taken needs to be factored in. For instance, one of my longest trips was about 30 miles away, and it took almost 40 minutes to get there, only to find out that what I wanted was already gone. Now that doesn't sound like a terrible thing until you realize you still have to drive home, meaning a total of 60 miles driven, along with almost an hour and a half wasted. So why did I even bother with it then, and what was it that I was trying to get that I would risk so much for? Well, it was a fairly new looking Craftsman leaf vacuum and chipper. And because it was the fall season, the value of a working unit in great condition was well over $200. So as you can see, the potential that item had made it worth the risk. However, they don't all end up that way. Now, one of the hardest things to avoid is being misled or outright lied to by the one posting the ad. And when something is presented in a better light, such as saying it's in good condition, or worse yet, if they think it's a different brand than it actually is, then there's not much you can do about it. Now, one of the first times this happened to me was about 10 years ago. The ad said it was a very large steel trimmer, but made no mention about its condition, and I believe this was done on purpose. And before you ask, this ad had no pictures with it, which should have been a red flag from the beginning. So I made the 20-minute drive in the dark to a rough part of town, and when I knocked on the door and asked about the trimmer, I was presented with a steel trimmer missing the engine cover and the trimmer head. Now, maybe I should have been the one to start asking questions about it, but you have to understand one thing. If you ask too many questions, you'll sometimes get ignored. Now, that means if there are no pictures in the ad, you'll have to be very cautious about it. So does that mean having pictures in the ad makes it a much better choice? Well, the answer is not really. Just recently, I made a 20-minute drive into Midtown, and when I got there, I made quite the discovery. The posting was late, so the picture was also dimly lit. It was a lawnmower, and the grass bag was on top of the engine next to the curb. However, once I rolled up to the curb and walked to it, I soon realized the bucket that was sitting next to it had mower parts that went with it. That's right, no mention of the fact that they had started to take it apart, only to realize they didn't know what to do after getting that far. Now, I do have to applaud them for their effort, but unfortunately they either ran out of ideas or never really had a plan to begin with. However, I still want to thank them for the free parts though. Now, I haven't been able to get a good look at that particular mower just yet, but I plan to as soon as the snow and cold weather moves out of the area. If I didn't mention it, the grass bag that was sitting on the engine was hiding the truth about the engine, which was a smart idea. Sometimes the pictures or a very wordy description in an ad can work against the poster, which is why sometimes details are omitted. Now, I've been guilty of the same crime as well, which I know sounds a bit hypocritical, but I think I went about it a whole lot better, so let me explain. A couple of years ago, I ended up buying a riding mower as a project. However, it was going to take more time and money than I was wanting to spend on it, so I posted it in the free section. I included 3 pictures of the riding mower and did a great job of describing it. However, I left it a little vague, and that's because the pictures told the whole story. Now, the mowing deck was not connected to the riding mower, but it was sitting next to it, which the picture clearly showed. Also, the engine was missing from it, which is how I bought it, but one of the 3 pictures I included also shows an empty engine bay, so there was no point in putting it in writing. Now, because the riding mower was quite the project for any one person, it took a bit longer to get it to disappear from the curb. But after 3 hours, I heard a truck pull up, 3 guys got out of it and loaded it into the back of a Dodge pickup truck and disappeared down the street. Now, I think the ad I posted up was as descriptive as I needed to be, with more than enough information for any one person. And if they felt they had been misled by it, all I would have to say is that it was in the ad, you just happened to miss it. I sure hope those guys did something great with it, and if not, I hope they got what they needed from it, and if those guys are watching right now, I want to thank you guys. So once you find and bring home your free item, the hard part is still to come, which isn't fixing what's wrong with it, but instead trying to figure out what's wrong with it first. So I do have one important tip when it comes to fixing stuff, and that's to not, I repeat, do not just buy all the standard maintenance parts and replace them. Instead, spend the time to diagnose what's wrong with it and only then buy what you need. Of course, there's a very good chance that if you replace the carb, spark plug, and air filter, that you'll get it working again, but the problem might go beyond those 3 parts. And if you replace those parts only to find out that it's still not starting, well, you not only wasted your money, but also your time. And you'll need to spend even more time and money to fix it, which you may not want to or can't do. Now, on this particular tiller, after testing, the carb turned out to be the problem, so yes, replacing the carb, spark plug, and air filter on this project would have fixed it. And with only a $12 investment in parts, you can easily turn around and sell this tiller for a lot of money, making it a great investment in your time. Now, the price range for one of these in the used market is all over the place, and that mainly depends upon when you're selling it and its condition. So just because you found a mower on the curb in October, fixed it in the same day, and then tried to sell it, your ad may not get a lot of attention. So what are you supposed to do then? Well, you could do what most people do, which is to sell it at a lower price than normal. The other option is to hold on to that mower for the next 5 to 6 months until the mowing season starts back up again. However, this choice has a lot of problems as well. Now, some of those problems are quite obvious to those who are watching, but one of them you may not be aware of. The biggest problem, of course, is space and not having enough of it, especially if you have a lot of them you need to store. The other is during that time in storage, some terrible things could happen, one of which are rodents getting into the equipment and damaging it. So it'll be up to you if you choose to take a lower price for it or decide it's worth the risk and keeping it for up to half a year. Then when the time comes, you can post it up and ask for a fair price for it, hopefully getting a great profit as well. But of course, there's still one more hurdle you have to deal with, and that's the price. Only you can decide on what your time is worth or how much profit you intend on making, but I do have one bit of advice. Price it in such a way that you won't have an issue selling it. However, don't undervalue your time either. Otherwise, it won't be worth all your time and effort, and that's worth more than you think it is. So my question is, have you ever considered finding and flipping equipment to make a couple of extra bucks? And if you already do it, how's your experience been so far? Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or about your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.